Hi everyone, I'm Ian. Welcome back to THU TV. Unfortunately, this is our last session, isn't it?
Yes,
Chris, hi.
It is.
Hopefully you've been catching up with everyone during the week. I've had an amazing time. What about you guys?
It's been really good.
Yeah, it's well, I expect it because this is THU and this is my fourth THU and this is I've been joking about it. It's like I call this my church, right? As an atheist, I still call this my church, and so I love the sessions that we've had here and the conversations. Actually, the talks here, I've been missing talks because I've been doing talks, which
Totally.
is kind of tough. But it's like your own personal Q&A with some amazing people, right?
Yeah, and I nearly missed this one.
You did. You got
the
here
time
in the
wrong.
nick of time.
I've been like 20 minutes early every day. And
You'd
like,
be 20 minutes late for one, right?
yeah,
Except for
Look,
the
you guys
last
could do
one,
it.
Ian, the last one.
so I'm a bit out of breath.
Yeah.
You guys can talk.
Can you just talk? I'm just going to sit here.
Really?
Nice.
I've had the best time. I've never actually done this before, you know, like sort of just
Now you tell
No,
us.
me neither.
on the
yeah.
couch chatting, and everyone's been so great. I had some big surprises though. I'll tell you about one of my surprises.
Okay.
Was today I had two attendees on. You know, mostly we've been talking to knights or people who
I've been talking to attendees a lot, actually.
Right, I hadn't yet.
Right.
A few people who were attendees but have perhaps been in the industry for like 20 years.
Sure.
I went through a list last week
Yeah.
and looked at two concept artists who I thought had done great work. Actually, they're both working in the industry. Both are freelancers, but one's at Fox, doing some stuff on a big film that might be coming out in a few years.
Right.
And one had worked at Luma Pictures and various other places. And I thought, oh, those guys would be cool to have on together. So they come in. They're buddies. You know, like I didn't even know they were friends.
They knew
They
each
both
other,
work
right.
in Los Angeles, right? I'd met one of them the year before in Fiji.
In Fiji.
Because of course you did.
And they were just the coolest guys. And I mean, you can go ahead and watch our previous shows, right, on Facebook.
Right.
And
Who are they? You should probably mention them.
now you put me on the spot.
I did.
because You really have. No, my mind's too flustered to know.
Right.
To remember, sorry.
It's okay.
But what was really great is I got their stories from, you know, just studying and getting into concept art. They're really young. Like, I said to someone afterwards, are they like 15 years old?
Right.
But they've already done amazing things, and they had never been to THU before. It was a big deal from day one, as in when the first THU started, they knew about it,
Yeah.
right? And they'd kind of waited 4 years to be able to come, 5 years maybe.
Sure.
And, I mean, they said they've had the best time ever. So I thought it was a great end session to have with them to find out, you know, what is it really like to actually finally get here, to work in the industry already, but to still feel like you can get a lot out of this conference, which it sounded like they've got out a lot
I
out
think
of.
a lot of people share, you know, there's an empathy about THU, right? Where we suddenly like, or more sympathy, because you realize that people are going through the same struggles, even if they're extraordinarily successful.
Absolutely.
They're going through the same struggles that you are, and you realize that you can relate to them
Yeah.
in some way.
Yeah.
And that's really nice.
Yeah.
You know?
What any surprises during the week that you found?
Well, it's funny you're going to say that, and I've told you this story, but I think I'm actually going to talk about my Ryan Woodward story,
Yep.
because that was something that was a little bit of a surprise. It was a little bit of a mix-up that happened, but in the end, it blossomed into this awesome THU moment, right? So I did an interview with two people who are good friends of mine. I've known them for a long time, and it was Roy Robinson and David Levy.
Yes.
And I already knew what I was going to talk about specifically because both of them have tried to, you know, they're very talented, and they've made short films on their own, and they are trying to, they're using a system where you put your stuff online and it gets attention, and it's actually fairly planned in an interesting way, and it's really interesting how you can do this, which as someone who's going to try to get someone's attention, that's actually a really good way to work. So that's what I was going to talk about. It's like how you make your short films and how you do your thing and how to release it. And I was going to talk about that. And there was a third person that showed up. His name
Random
Ryan Woodward.
third person.
Yeah.
Sorry, what was the name again?
Ryan Woodward.
Yeah.
And Ryan is an unbelievably talented person. However, because it's not necessarily in my circle or David's circle or Rory's circle, we didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
He just showed up because there was a schedule conflict, whatever, which is fine, by the way. Like I said, it ends in a great note. But he showed up, and I'm like, and who are you? But he's like a superstar, right?
Did you say it like that?
I did. I did. And he's like, right. It's like, okay.
Hey,
And so
Spielberg, it's not your turn. Fuck off.
And listen. So he sat on the couch, and we had like 2 minutes before we go into air, right? And I said, Ryan, so real quick, because I had this plan, right?
Yeah.
I was like, what is it that you do?
Yeah.
And this is embarrassing because now I know
Yeah.
who he is, right? And he's like, I have animation, I've done some short films. It's like, great, short films, awesome.
That's what we're talking about.
This is what we're talking about. I was like, let's do this.
Jump on that,
And then
yeah.
let's jump on this. And so we did an interview, and honestly, you guys can look back. I actually think it went really well. I spent a lot
Sure.
of attention figuring out, and he had some really great stuff. And honestly, that's sometimes really awesome when you have a conversation with someone who you don't know what they do, and you find out as opposed to just fawning over them, right? And so after that,
I'm pretty good at fawning over.
yeah, I know. But like and then we break, and then David and Rory and I are talking for a second, and then Ryan just leaves, right? He just takes off. And then Rory says, oh, I feel really bad. We should look this guy up, right? I said, and we looked up, it was like, holy shit. You know, this guy's amazing. His
Yeah.
work is incredible. So we got on Facebook, and we was like, he's on Facebook. Like, just immediately friend request him. And we sent him a message. It's like, all three of us. It's like, we feel really, really bad, and can we buy you a drink? Do something. Like, we just want to chat, we want to connect, and we feel bad about what happened, right? And so we're sitting at the Oasis, right, or the King Oasis, and suddenly he said, he came by, and he says, I check Facebook like once a month, and for some reason I felt like I'm just gonna go on Facebook and I get all these messages from you guys, and then it's like, you guys are really cool. It's like, yeah, it wasn't your fault or anyone's fault, and we hang out at THU, and we've connected, and we drank some wine together, and he and I suddenly started talking about our daughters, and he lives in LA, so I think I'm gonna hang out with Ryan. Like, we're actually gonna reconnect.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so that's a THU thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's like my THU story for this time.
Brilliant. Hi, I'm going to ask you about your highlights too, but I've just remembered the names of those two great concept artists.
Let's do it.
David Tilton and Finian McManus.
Ah.
Look them up. Seriously, check out their work on ArtStation. It's really awesome, their personal work, but they've already done, for young guys, some incredible film concept work.
Really? Like, what
And-
kind of work did they work on?
Well, David was at Luma Pictures and did Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. You know, we're talking like concept art
Yeah.
stuff. And Finian worked at ILM on Rogue One, Pacific Rim, I think. Look, they've both worked on projects they're not allowed to talk about, which I think is also a really good learning stage about being in the
Does
industry.
it start with S and wars at the end?
They didn't tell me.
Swars.
They did not tell me. But yeah, that was really cool to have them. But yeah, highlights. Hiya.
So I come at this from a really weird angle in that I don't really do art. I don't really even
No.
know the art space, right? The only reason I'm
Sure.
here is that, like, proper nepotism. my wife used to be at Pixar. She knows some of the people here. We came here like a few years ago. I spent a little time talking to Andre because that's what I do. I talk bollocks about business. And he was like, you, at some point. And I suddenly found myself with a little bit of time on my hands these weeks. And he was like, you know what? You should come here. You should talk to people. You should, come and do the business track. And I was like, sure, I can do that. Walking into, like, blindly, kind of, what the? And I've spoken to so many really inspirational people who are, like, top of their class, like, geniuses.
Yeah.
I mean, just earlier I was talking to Stuart, who was one of the early people at EA. No fucking idea who he was. Because on my list it said Stuart and Scott, and I was like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
There's no last names. I haven't got time to do research, so fuck it, I'll wing it. And I sat here with him, and I was like, oh, this is a really different interview than I thought we were going to have.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. It was really, really fun. Had a really good chat with Andre as well, where I basically put him in a spot and said, dude, business. Let's talk business and THU, because you keep threatening to shut this thing down.
Yeah.
All the people here would cry, including you. Let's find out what this means, right? What does it mean? Could you do a $2,000 ticket price? Could you get more sponsors? Could you grow it? Could you? And
Because there are conferences with $2,000 ticket prices.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you can't do that to these people.
Well, that was the interesting conversation we had. It was like, look, from a business point of view, if you sell out in 18 hours, that means the tickets are too cheap.
Well,
So we need to find out what that means.
well, you analyze. You
did,
you went through it with him,
but,
right?
But
Sure,
you're also,
yeah.
what you're also doing is you're cutting off a certain class of attendee.
And that's exactly the conversation we were having, and I
Right.
loved it. It was so interesting.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, from a purely business point of view, you want to sell your last ticket 1 week before it happens.
Yeah, because economics, supply and demand, right?
Exactly. And, you know, and it was just really, really fascinating to actually get into that and say, look, ignore what you want from being a good person point of view. If that is the one thing you don't want to do, increase the ticket price, but you still want to keep doing this and you still want to keep, you know, growing this,
Right.
how can you make it more valuable to sponsors? How can you get more people? How can you have to move one slider or another, because you can't continue losing money year after year after year after year, right? That's
Right,
not
right.
there's not a healthy way of putting on an event. So that was a really good conversation, and that was one of the highlights for me, I think. It's just basically, because I think, it was funny, I was talking to one of the other attendees, Afonso, and I basically said, how horrible should I be? Because I thought I could actually, with Andre, I can make him cry. I can be so horrible to
Isn't
him.
that the goal?
I thought I'd be
Well,
trying
not
to
to
be
make
nice.
him cry by cry of happiness, not from
Sure,
sadness.
sure.
He's cried once already, and he'll cry again tonight.
Sure.
We can
He
guarantee
will cry
that.
tonight.
Yeah.
So my thought was, okay, how hard should I put on the thumb screws? Because I'm really curious about how far can I go to actually dig into the financial piece of this. But anyway, it was really, really interesting,
Great.
and it was fantastic fun.
We also put you in the deep end on day one with a politician
That was kind of wild.
from Portugal, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for doing that.
That was
But
fun.
I thought it went
actually.
well.
That was
Yeah.
really good fun.
Yeah.
So we, so what happened there was that they put me in that chair where you were
Right.
sitting, and I was talking to the Secretary of
State thing.
Secretary of State and Industry
not
or
sure.
something like that, some sort
Right.
of commercial bit of.
Yeah,
and
she seemed really great.
she was really great,
She
but she
was.
was also very politician-y
Yeah.
about kind of dodging questions and
She was a
stuff.
politician.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, you're getting onto something. But that was really interesting. And the thing is, it's not the first time I've done interviews, but I prefer usually to be a lot better prepared. And I was like, sure, we'll talk about
Yeah.
stuff. It was fun. It was really fun.
Oh, that's cool. And what about your experiences away from THU TV? Like we've said, you can't always get to every session. I'll just say quickly, one of the things I love about this event, as always, is catching up with old friends and then making like a whole bunch of new ones.
Yeah.
There's not only like-minded people here and there are artists, but there are people who work in the industry, as in the industries that we cover and talk to. I've just loved making new contacts, frankly, and relationships, and feel like I'll see them at every event from now on, and it's just a really nice thing, you know. And they're just generally people are very relaxed and casual. It's not a businessy type place at all, except everyone is also working, you know, in the industry, so that's good too, right?
Yeah.
Chris, have you found that?
Absolutely. What's been sort of I feel a little fatherly about saying this,
Right.
But just bringing Ian Spriggs here, you have no idea how shy and introverted that guy
Yeah,
is.
totally.
And
Yeah.
the story is basically like Andre walked into my office in Culver City, and he and I were chatting and did a podcast with him, and then he saw like pictures of Ian on the wall because I printed them out, his portraits, and he's like, "Who the f is that guy?" Right?
Yeah.
And I said Ian, and then he's like, let's try to see if we can make this work out, and Ian is terrified. But this event not only allowed him to open up, but like he felt a safe environment.
So he did 2 talks in front of big crowds, plus he was on the couch with me and with you.
me. Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't realize he did 2 of them.
Yeah.
He's just doing great.
And he was a natural, basically, wasn't he?
He doesn't know it. So that's the thing that's wonderful, that he can realize that he can actually be not just a guy with the headphones on that does his portraits. He can actually be an advocate and be an inspiration to people.
Yeah. In fact, it's interesting. He's worked in the industry for a long time, but he hasn't necessarily been to lots of events like this where everyone gets together.
Yeah.
And that's, isn't that interesting, actually? Because he's sort of had his head down, I guess, for however long he's worked in the industry. Yeah. What about you outside of the THU TV?
I spent a lot of time in the King Oasis. Studying carefully.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I've done a lot of heavy drinking, basically.
Have you smelt the meat already that's being cooked
Oh my
over
God,
there?
they're cooking 2 pigs right now.
Yeah, there's 2 pigs over there. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's so exciting. I thought you meant something about, have you smelt the meat? I was like, wait, that sounds rude. What did I miss?
I mean,
No, but
the
it was
pigs
really
are
good. I
It's
spent a lot
really
of time
good.
down there.
And the other thing that I like about the King Oasis is the fact that the prices are stupid low.
Yeah.
Because that's, again, related to your ticket prices thing, right? Is because they want to make sure that everyone can have a good time. It's affordable. It's not about, so I think it's really great. And Andre nails it every year, man. It's always different every year. That's the other thing, right? You go to SIGGRAPH. I've been to SIGGRAPH a lot. It's kind of the same thing every year. Not to say that SIGGRAPH is bad, because I look forward to the content of the papers.
Yep.
But the experience is reinvented every year at THU. Every year. So
That
Is
actually,
he your Jesus? In the church setting?
I'm going to use the Scott line. He's my brother from another mother.
Okay.
yeah, and you know what? Seeing as it's, how many THUs are we up to? This is the 4th edition, right?
So I haven't been to the very first one.
No, I've been to 3 now. They know what they're doing. So in fact, I would say Andre, believe it or not, feels more relaxed, appears more relaxed.
I saw him sit down and eat lunch today.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
Same.
That was amazing. He sat down, ate lunch. Now, it lasted 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But he did get some food in his belly, and he wasn't walking around.
But of course, experience running an event is going to make you and the system and the cogs flow better. Even I feel like I know where everything is now, and I can sort of feel more confident going up to people, and knowing that I can walk in late to a presentation, and knowing that I can act a different way around the speakers, because they're heroes of mine mostly as well.
Yeah.
But you start to realize that everyone is sort of equal, on par.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
That's the thing. That's the thing that's important, right? Because I have been to a lot of events, as you said, and the speakers are always treated in this like gold chariot manner, where they go to special, amazing speaker dinners, like whisked away, right? In a lot of ways. And now we're getting our dinner, and then we go right back out and hang out with everyone, and everyone can come up to you. That's the point.
Yeah.
If they're going to learn, they should learn over drinks and hang out and talk and show their stuff and take their time. And everyone has to do it. And it's also 7 days, right? So
Yeah. So what do we think is going to be coming up in the rest of the year? I mean, in terms of design and visual effects and computer graphic stuff. I'm looking forward to some of these big films coming out.
Yeah.
Last Jedi, Thor 3. What about in your world, Haje? What sort of things will you be doing for the rest of the year?
I have
and
no
into next
idea.
year? You don't know?
I have no idea.
I just wanted people to know more about you and the people here that were on the couch.
I actually try to think beyond a year.
Okay.
So 1 year is like get my timesheet done. Seriously. I'm actually trying to think of because sometimes I'm a year behind on doing my timesheet, but I'm just kidding. Okay. But I actually try to think about, that's the thing of what I do, right? And
Okay.
for my job is to think about technology how it's going to evolve in the next 5 years, right? So it's like, okay, here's where I think it's going to go. What are the steps it needs to take to get there, and how we can be involved in that particular thing. And actually, it's helped a lot. I've actually, even coming to THU, even though it's a very creative environment, I've actually had some amazing technology conversations here with some people where, like, we're going to go somewhere on this. You know, we're going to do some cool stuff.
You make me feel so ridiculous by saying that I really am looking forward to some films. Thanks a lot, Chris.
You're allowed to look forward to films.
I look forward to those films too, but that's not what my job is, though. You asked what about our job, right?
I'm kidding.
But it is part of your job. Hold on. Ian.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you your props, though, because you are an amazing journalist.
No.
And yes, you are. You're a great writer, and you bring this to light to everyone. And you put it in a great context, and it is important. So yes, of course you feel excited about Last Jedi, right? You should feel excited about it because you are excited about the fact that you're going to write an amazing thing that people can learn from and grow from.
Yeah,
this.
it's funny. You sort of, I mentioned films. The reason I say that is because my calendar is littered with the release dates.
Yes,
of films
as it should.
and TV shows, right? So actually, really, the next thing on my brain is season 2 of Stranger Things.
And mine is littered with events.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
This is the only one that matters. This is my tentpole event. Does that matter?
Yeah, tentpole
There you go.
event.
No, there's a lot of great events I go to, and they're all really great. But this one is the one that just makes emotionally makes me feel more respected. So.
Yeah. All right, so the rest of the night is coming up is the closing ceremony.
Yeah.
That's at 7 o'clock. And that's going to be streamed live on what you're watching now. It's an event where Andre usually cries.
Yeah.
So we'll
It's kind of
make that happen.
mandatory.
What's so
Mandatory.
funny about the opening ceremony is that he made himself cry,
He
as
did.
opposed to
He
us
did.
making him cry. Like
He's such a sweetheart. I love it.
Yeah. But I actually would really recommend tuning into that because,
Yes.
again, it's a way of...
it gives you the feeling of what happened.
And it captures
yeah.
the energy really well as
Yeah,
well.
totally tune into the closing
Yes,
ceremony.
and as we probably already mentioned when we first had a chat, there's 900 people here. The opening and closing ceremonies are in a different venue than previously, and it doesn't feel any less intimate,
No.
despite having that many people, right? And that's a really interesting thing about, again, but maybe to do with your conversation with Andre, he was always worried about the event getting too big. And I certainly don't feel like it has at all this year. You know, I mean, I think it could be bigger. It's
Right.
just as intimate from my point of view.
Well, I think what happens is that when events really start growing, you don't have the intimacy of the whole event. But what happens is that it splinters a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And so you get like loads of I feel like you can't talk to much more than 4 or 5 people at the same time anyway.
That's true.
And those groups, it just happens to be more of those groups, right?
Yeah.
And as long as you manage to kind of keep percolating people around, then you keep having these amazing conversations.
Yeah. In fact, that probably characterizes my week quite well.
Percolating?
More just like amazing conversations,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
at,
for sure.
at
me too.
very stupid times, like at breakfast or,
Yeah. That is a
4
stupid
a.m.
time for a break.
Having said that, I'm no Chris Nichols who is able to stay up until 5 a.m., 6 a.m.
I just stay on LA time.
Solid. Solid.
Well, as we're wrapping up here, I just want to make sure people know about THU TV as a thing that you can sign up to and rewatch. And what you do is you go to the website trojan-unicorn.com/TV, and that's where you'll see the options for signing up to THU TV. It's only €59. You can get access to past years as well. And basically what they've been doing all week, apart from us having these conversations with some great people, is they've been making purpose-made shows. Like tips and tricks shows, interviews and discussions, just like we've been having as well. And they're sort of like, it's crazy to think they're super high quality, aren't they? Like full-on
yeah.
production value
Yeah,
stuff.
no. It's no joke. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is like, it's not just like one camera looking at a guy giving a lecture. This is like high production value,
Yeah.
beautifully produced.
Yeah, it's awesome. So go and check that out, and don't forget that the closing ceremony is at 7 o'clock tonight.
Right.
And we're going to sign off. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
us.
guys.
Cheers.
See you later.